let's get stuck in and talk about market research. Market research is something that really is essential for every business, no matter what type of business it is, whether it's a product or a service business, no matter what industry you're in. You really need to be doing market research. You may have already done market research, which is great if you have. If you haven't, then this module is really essential for you. You may well have started doing market research but kind of a bit stuck, so hopefully this will give you a bit of a guide really on different types of market research and how to use the information that you gather from doing it. And we know that brands that are successful at targeting mums, they spend time researching and getting to know your customers. Now, throughout this course, I will continue to go on about getting to know your customers because it is so important. So important. So I'm going to talk about different types of market research that you can do for mums that will be beneficial to your company. I'm going to talk about interviews. I'm going to talk about doing surveys, and I'm going to talk about doing focus groups as well. Let's start with interviews. Now, interviews can be done in a variety of ways, really. Interviews can be done online, can be done in person, so they can be done online through a social media platform. They can be done on Skype online. They can be done over the phone. They can be done as a one-to-one basis as well. But interviews with mums and other potential users of your product or service should most certainly form part of your market research plan, because it will give you valuable insight to the needs and wants of mums, and it will also allow for critical feedback. My suggestion is that around 10 interviews per product category or service should be sufficient. Surveys. Surveys are a much easier way of, well, I'll say easier, less time-consuming way of gathering feedback, gathering research rather, and they can be carried out en masse really via social media. If you've got an email list as well, that's another thing we're going to talk about later on in the course. But if you've got an email list, you can blast out a survey via your email list and get some responses through that route as well. And the platform I use for doing surveys is surveymonkey.com. You can create surveys for free. It's got a lot of great tools on there to use. So surveymonkey.com is a fantastic platform to use. This is just a little image of one of the questions that I've asked regarding the online antenatal classes that I set up at the beginning of the year. This isn't a research survey. This is actually a post-course survey. So as well as doing them for research, it's always worthwhile doing them afterwards as well to get feedback from clients, to see if there's anything that needs to be changed, or amended or improved on. The layout, the format that SurveyMonkey uses is really simple. It's simple for most people to use. You don't have to be tech savvy to use it. Let me give you an idea of some of the questions that you might want to ask. So imagine you are a placenta encapsulation business. So here's some of the questions you might want to ask if you are just doing market research. But bearing in mind, you can send these surveys out to if you were doing a placenta encapsulation, then one of your tribes would potentially be mums who give birth at home, mums who do hypnobirthing. Some of the questions you can ask, I've written down here, would be, have you heard about placenta encapsulation? If so, is this something that you've ever considered or will consider doing in the future? If you were able to take a natural supplement postpartum that might reduce the risk of developing postnatal depression, would you try it? What would your concerns be, if any, for using a placenta encapsulation service? So when you're making a survey, you can have checkbox answers, or you could have free text answers. So free text will just give them the opportunity to write down a few comments themselves. But don't do too many of those types of questions because it's time consuming, and we know that mums are busy people. Mums are very, very busy. Mums do not want to be filling in a survey that's going to take 10 minutes to fill out. One that's going to take a minute or two absolutely perfect. So try to stick to yes, no, or unsure answers, questions. So questions with closed answers, but it's always worthwhile trying to throw in one or two questions that will give you a bit more of an in-depth response rather than just your closed answers. Another example of some questions you might want to ask if you hosted parties for children might be: how old is your child or children? Have you used an outside entertainer to host a party in the past before? If yes, what theme did you use, if any? What would your budget be for planning a party for a child aged under 10? So this will give you a bit more of an insight into how much women are prepared to spend. When booking a child entertainer, what are your most important requirements? How long do you feel a child's party should last for? So the questions need to be thought about very, very carefully, very, very thoughtfully. And once you've done a survey, to be able to really analyse it and use that research, you need to be getting at least 50 responses. And that can be through a variety of means, whether it's via email, whether it's via a social media post. If you've joined 20 tribes, 20 mums groups on Facebook, if you are able to push out your surveys to all of those groups, absolutely fantastic. Sometimes women might need an incentive, so you might say, fill out this survey for a chance to win a free book or whatever it is you provide. It's a really, really good way of trying to get some feedback. Focus groups. Everybody does focus groups, and they're not essential to every business, but they are a great way of gaining some insight into how your potential audience or your potential customers feel about a brand, product or service. So a focus group is a small gathering of potential customers discussing a product or service. So the attendees will discuss the company and the product and what relevance it may have to them. It's facilitated by a moderator, so it could be you sitting there, not necessarily getting involved, but just sitting there, monitoring what's going on. And the idea is to gain some insight into issues affecting mums and their needs. Only problem with focus groups is that they can take time to organise, and research participants will often expect to be compensated in some way, whether it's a monetary compensation or whether it is, by being given a free item or a free part of your service. So perhaps you might be a newborn photographer, and you're able to give your focus group participants a free photography session if they take part. So let's move on to mapping and segmenting. So this does all form part of your market research, and it helps you right at the beginning to figure out gaps in the market. It all depends on where you are in your business. You might still be at the very, very beginning, trying to work out your business plan and your business route. And if you are at the beginning stages, then this is a great way of making sure there is actually a need for your product or service, or that there is scope for your business to move forward and to grow. So if you have a little look at this table, I have decided to segment antenatal education. So the way I segmented it is into 3 sections. So we've got your specialist antenatal education, i.e. hypnobirthing, so specialist forms of antenatal education. Then we've got full courses and single classes. So full courses would be a complete antenatal program, talking about everything from pregnancy right through to birth, to postnatal, etc., etc. So the antenatal classes that I run 8 sessions covering pregnancy, mind and body preparation, 2 sessions of labour and birth. I do a postnatal session. I do a caring for your newborn baby session, infant feeding session, and a baby first aid session as well. So that's a full course. So there's also scope for single classes as well. So then if you look along the left-hand column, this is more about the features of the classes and courses. So some that are free, some that are paid for but they are low cost, some that are paid for but they're high cost, some that are online pre-recorded, and some that are online live. So under the free courses section, Some NHS trusts are running full courses for free. But I don't know of any leaders in the market that are offering specialist classes for free or single classes for free. So this is where the gaps are. That's where the gaps are. If you go down to the paid classes that are the low end ones, some NHS services are offering hypnobirthing and other specialist classes, active birth for example, for a small fee. The NCT certainly do. And the NCT also provide the full courses for a high-end cost as well. NCT tend to subsidise some women, the ones that are on lower incomes. And under high-end, I've also put KG Hypnobirthing, that's Catherine Graves Hypnobirthing, because her courses are on the higher end, they're quite expensive. But going down to the online pre-recorded, Antenatal Online do offer some single classes that are pre-recorded that you can just buy, but I haven't seen them offer any full courses, so there's a gap there. And online pre-recorded specialist hypnobirthing classes as well. Online live ones, that is where Now Baby Live, which is what I run, that is where we have come in and we have filled those gaps in that market. So one idea for you guys is to take this table, put it into your own industry, map it out, map out your market, segment it, and figure out where you are in relation to your main competitors. Lastly, when it comes to researching, just remember, the only opinions that count when it comes to marketing are that of a business's target audience, and successful companies will already know this. Doesn't matter what your friend thinks, doesn't matter what what your colleague thinks. It's only the people that are potentially your target audience. It's their views that matter.